What's up, everyone? It's George Wood, the Tattooed Pastor, and you are watching or listening to the Sober Truth Podcast. Today, I am excited to bring to you Justin Shon, the founder of Redwood Micro, a company that offers microdosing as a product that will bring healing and health to those that are struggling with trauma, with mental health issues, with addiction issues, physical issues, spiritual issues, and the list goes on. So I am excited to bring it to you. Make sure you leave some comments in the below area. You know, somewhere down in this section, I don't even really know, but leave your comments. Hit share, like, and subscribe so you can hear more content, see more content, and learn more about the truth that we're trying to bring you, and that is recovery is for everyone. So, Justin, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it. Thank you for the intro, and I'm really excited to chat with you and educate and make aware of everything that you just said and the potential of these medicines and the security and the safety, you know, the low risks and basically, just kind of debunk all of the myths and all of the fear surrounding these medicines and kind of show everyone that there are other ways and that it's not just about, you know, like you said, tripping and getting high every day, and that it's something way deeper and way more medicinal and profound, and that's what I'm really focusing on, and that's what I'm trying to spread as far and wide as possible is really just education and awareness about what this is and what it's doing and how it's affecting us and the benefits of it and to show proof and, you know, that there is hard evidence and like you said, there's been fear for 40 years for doctors to even research. You know, they haven't even been allowed, these institutions that are ready and have the means to research. And then you see now in the last, 2, 3, 4 years, as soon as they've opened it up, you have universities like Johns Hopkins, Harvard, throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into studies to prove and show that these hallucinogenics, these psychedelics, these drugs that, you know, the world has feared for so long, basically since Vietnam, they're here to heal and help us, and that's their main goal, and the rest is secondary. And people are able to abuse them, and I am someone that came along that same path, and I think that a lot of people start off that way, and it's kind of where, well, how are you going to know, where you fall in that line if you're not experimenting and you're not trying it out, and everyone has to start somewhere. But what it all comes down to, and it comes back around, is to where you and I are now, is to where we see and we realize, maybe we had fun with these, psychedelics, and we had these trips, and I have some great memories from these, don't get me wrong, but when I think about healing and when I think about what's actually bettered me and what's gotten me out of my dark places, it's not those happy memories of me when I'm really high on these drugs, but it's when I've seriously looked at how to consciously take them in order to heal, and how to take them with intention, and how to integrate that, and how to look at what's happening after, and use it as a tool as opposed to using it as an answer, And I think a lot of people use substances or try to use substances as an answer, and they look to substance as an answer. And even with microdosing, I tell people this isn't an answer, you know what I mean? But it's a tool. And what we've got to realize is that with every tool, you've got to be conscious with how you use it, and you can't just blindly grab a hammer and start whacking things. You know what I mean? You have to really know exactly what you're using this tool for. And once you do, everything changes. It's like trying to use the wrong size Allen wrench for something, you're never going to get there. You're just going to continue going in circles and circles and circles. But when you find that one that works, and you find that mechanism for you, and how you need to heal, everything changes. And I think it's really important for us to make aware that there is potential to get away from these chemicals and these pharmaceuticals, and even the medicines that are being prescribed to us, and that people aren't necessarily even abusing in their minds. The antidepressants, the anti-anxieties, the sleeping medications, all of these chemical mood enhancers, or all of the chemicals that are altering neurotransmitter levels in our brain, but doing it in a non-natural way. That's what we need to get away from, and that's where people are getting caught up, and that's where the medical system in the United States, I think, is failing. As to the people is, most people, if they get something, if they go to a doctor, the doctor tells them to take something, the average person is going to say, oh, well, this is a doctor, this is a medical professional, this is a doctor, there's no position in the United States that's looked at as more educated, more legitimate, more, they took 10 years of school, they went to medical school, they must know what's right for me and my body, right? Because they went to medical school, but they don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know where your problems are coming from, why you have them, and the root cause of them. And they're just blindly covering up problems. It's like putting Band-Aids over Band-Aids over Band-Aids. And then the person tries to take that Band-Aid off, and after 10 years, and you're left with a wound or a sore that's 10 times bigger than it was in the beginning. Because you've just let it fester, and you've let it sit there. And I think that, we've got to look at the root cause of these issues, and not just, I feel this way, so I'm going to do this, but figuring out why we feel this way, and why we've gone and abused these substances, and what it was that we were trying to get from that, and for me, it's, it's been a journey, it's been a journey of healing, of recovery from medications that were prescribed to me, medications that weren't prescribed, and just healing, and everyone is suffering right now, in some way. Everyone has pain, everyone's dealing with things, and that's what I think also we need to make sure that we stay aware of, is that we're all going through this, and to find something that helps you get out of a dark place is very important, and it's crucial, whether it's art, whether it's music, microdosing. But really my main goal from my whole business and my mission and me coming to Mexico is really just to educate and make aware and tell my story. And
what is your story?
To share.
Why don't you start?
So basically, yeah. So I mean, how I got into this whole thing is I guess goes back to 12 years ago. I was a competitive snowboarder for 8-9 years of my life, when I was teenager into my early 20s, and got really into it, and until I had a very serious accident snowboarding, and had a really, really serious injury, and I was 22 at the time, and I had visions. I thought I was going to be a professional snowboarder. That was my dream. That was everything that I had. I had basically put all my eggs in that basket. And then, I got hurt really bad, a really severe leg injury to my knee and leg, and tore a bunch of ligaments, cartilage, broke a couple bones, and long story short, ended up 5 surgeries later, and very dependent on, the painkillers that I had been prescribed 5 years before, before the first surgery after the injury, you know, and it was very light, you know, and didn't really think anything of it. And yeah, you know, five surgeries later, I'm very heavily dependent on these opiates, and realizing that it was way beyond what I was capable of dealing with on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the Western medical system, the doctors aren't there to help you get off of that. They're there to give it to you and then say, okay, now it's been 3 weeks. You shouldn't need this anymore, so we're not going to give it to you. So then it's okay. So then you know, seeing psychiatrists. So then I'm trying to figure out what to do now. Okay, now what? Now I've got to figure out how to get off of, you know, all of these medications that I've been prescribed to by these doctors that were helping me for the last 5 years. And then it leads to, you know, okay, so now I've kind of transitioned from the opiates, but now I'm seeing a psychiatrist, and now they're giving me Xanax and Klonopin and all these anti-anxieties and antidepressants. You know, oh, well, you know, you've definitely got depression from the surgeries and the pain, the opiate use, which is normal because opiates naturally cause depression. They'll suck your serotonin, so we're gonna, you know, put you on an antidepressant and anti-anxiety. And, you know, then the anxiety and it doesn't work, and then you start to feel more anxious, and then, okay, here's something to sleep. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, so now I'm not on opiates, but I'm on a whole other cocktail of medications that have been prescribed to me by a different doctor. So it's just one doctor trading for another doctor. And basically I got to the point where I was tired. I was sick. I was exhausted of being dependent on these pills to wake up, to feel something that day, you know, and heard about microdosing. And, you know, basically I just had a moment where I said, you know, I'm done. I'm done with these medications. I'm done. I'm going to get off. And I was kind of naive and ignorant at that moment. And I just said, okay, I'm just not going to take them anymore. I'm stronger than this. I'm not allowing these medicines to take over and control me. And next thing I know, I'm having seizures trying to come off of these medications that have been prescribed to me. And I was never told that would have been an issue, you know, no, it's so then it's this whole other level of panic of like, okay, so now I'm on medications that am I going to die if I get off of these medications? Like, I don't know what's going on. I end up in the hospital because I'm having seizures trying to come off of, you know, benzodiazepines. And then they tell me, oh, well, you can't just come off this. You could die this way, you know? And it's like, okay, so now you're telling me, you prescribe me a medication that if I want to come off of it, I could die, you know? And it was just this huge realization to me that the medical system is not here to help me. At least me personally, I felt like they were not there to help me. They were just pushing me further into the ground. And I had a friend that mentioned to me something about psilocybin and mushrooms specifically. You know, what about, have you heard of microdosing? It's, you know, why don't you try microdosing? I've seen really good results. And at the time, I didn't really know much about it. You know, it was kind of like you. I was like, I just assumed, okay, I guess I'll get a bag of mushrooms and just eat little nibbles off of it and see how it goes. And to be honest, that's actually what I did in the beginning.
Yeah.
Was I got it and I would eat little bits and pieces and I would do it occasionally, and it would have an effect. I felt it. I would feel that day, and I could tell that it was doing something, but it was still not doing what I wanted, or what I had, you know, read all these studies that, oh, microdosing is, people are getting off of antidepressants, they're getting off, stop smoking cigarettes, alcohol, just really incredible stories of people curing cancer. I mean, stories that are just blow your mind if you really read into some of these stories of what mushrooms have done. So I knew in the back of my mind that they can work and they have this power, and it's just a matter of finding my dose or experimenting a little bit with it. And naturally, you know, I have a psychology background. spent 10 years in cannabis, commercial cannabis cultivation. So I was already very much involved with cultivating and connected to nature in that way. So basically I said, you know what, I'm gonna start growing mushrooms. I'm gonna start growing mushrooms, and I'm gonna go full on 100% in this exploration of these mushrooms, and really see what's going on with this, and see how I can heal myself. And I convinced myself in that moment, and basically became obsessed, and told myself I'm not going to stop this experimenting until I find a dose, a mixture, some type of blend of mushrooms that works for me, and that is doing what it's doing for all these other people. Because I didn't think they were lying. I knew the stories were real. I just knew that I needed to find my specific dose and blend, and basically spent a year experimenting with alchemy of different mushrooms, and blending mushrooms with superfoods, and adding a higher dose of this mushroom, that. And I started doing research, and just became obsessed with mushrooms, all types of mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, blending mushrooms, what compounds create from, when you take lion's mane, for example, and you take it by itself, it's going to give you one benefit, or it'll give you multiple benefits, but it'll give you a series of benefits. And if you add reishi mushroom to that, now you're actually going to pull more benefits up from the lion's mane and from the reishi. And the more mushrooms you add, the more each individual mushroom is actually pulling more benefits from the other mushrooms. So it's like this web of beneficial properties, in the sense that the more mushrooms you add, the more benefits you get from each previous mushroom.
Wow.
And I started, and it's a fascinating concept that a lot of people don't know, and that's this whole idea of what you call stacking mushrooms, and basically that, like, there's a certain percent, I don't know the exact percent, but some X percentage increase of the benefits you get from this mushroom by adding this mushroom. And then you add another mushroom, you get more from each one of the ones below it. So it just kind of keeps going. And it fascinated me, and I became obsessed, and I just said, okay, I'm going to sit here, and I did about a year, maybe 12, 15 different blends of ingredients, higher dose of this, less of this, whatever. And this whole time I was doing this for my own personal healing. I was looking for something that I could take that allowed me to feel in my body present, without anxiety, but also without feeling high, because I didn't want to feel high. I didn't want to substitute one high for another. I wanted something that alleviated the pain, the stress, the anxiety, but without taking me out and putting me into a checked out state of mind. And I found in this blend, and what ended up becoming the signature blend for Redwood Micro, which is this 11 ingredient superfood and mushroom blend. And I started taking it, and right away I knew that it was different than all of my previous blends. And I don't know I couldn't tell you specifically which ingredient it is that changed it, but something about this blend, maybe it was my intention when I was making it, but it clicked, and it was very apparent to me that, okay, this is what I've been experimenting for the last year, of finding this, something that for me I would take, and I didn't feel the effects of the mushrooms. I didn't feel like, okay, I'm going to be high. All of a sudden, I would just realize that I would be in a really good state of mind, and I'd be in a good mood, in a flow state. And literally friends of mine could see this change in me, and were asking me what I was doing and what I had done in order to, because it was obvious that I had significantly bettered myself, my mood, the way my eyes, the way that I looked, my appearance, everything. And basically I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know, but I'm experimenting with these microdoses, and started giving some samples out to friends. And they all came back to me, and they basically all came back with the same kind of realization that I had. And they basically came back to me and said, you have something here. Like, this isn't just you thinking that you've found something. This is legit. This is working. I feel this. This is something that I really think you should go with. And at the time I was living in Northern California in Humboldt County. And I linked with a psychiatrist there who, I'm not going to say names, but at the time, and it still is, very frowned upon in psychiatry in the US to prescribe or work with these alternative medicines, but living in Humboldt County, it's a very open, alternative lifestyle type place. And this psychiatrist was very keen to use it and was very much wanting to use it and he was actually even allowing patients of his to use it. He wasn't selling it. He wasn't prescribing it. He was offering it as almost kind of doing his own trial. And he came back to me with same thing, with this is doing incredible work on my patients. They're all finding relief very quickly. I wish that I could help you more, but being in the US and in this medical system, I can't risk this. I can't do much more than what I'm doing. But what I can do is I can recommend you and put you in contact with some people that I know in Mexico that have left the US to go to Mexico specifically to work with this kind of medicine. And then I had this whole idea, and basically I came to Mexico for vacation, to Tulum specifically. I saw the potential. I started talking with some doctors, and then I had a mushroom experience here in Tulum, but a high dose, a journey, because it was a very introspective time for me. And in that journey and in that time, basically saw and realized that my calling was to come back here and to do this and to bring this medicine to Mexico and to connect with the doctors, and that was going to be my way to basically share this with the world and do it on a scale that was legitimate and that had support of medical community. And I flew back and I sold everything that I owned in my house in California. I had a small house plant business that I liquidated, sold 300 houseplants, packed my car with my dog, and drove to Tulum, Mexico from California about 2 years ago. And met doctors along the way. I was stopping at retreat centers, rehab centers, holistic doctors. I mean, just really, really old school, door to door, just, hitting the pavement. Hey, I've got this product, like true sales in that sense. But at the same time, I never felt like I had to sell it. I didn't have to ever sell anything. I just would go and I would talk to these doctors and I would tell my story. And I was just, I felt finally for the first time that my business and my product was being seen for real, and not just from people that were, like you said, these, hippies that are trying to get a little bit high every day, but on a scale of these are medical professionals that are reaching out and seeking this for treating their patients. And I realized that it was a lot bigger than I initially thought, and that this whole thing was really something that I timing wise, I think I did get in at a good time, and the mushroom boom and the psychedelic kind of renaissance has started again.
Mm-hmm.
But but being here in Mexico and having the support of the doctors that I'm working with is really what's giving me all of the motivation that I have. And it's giving me tons of fuel to continue going, you know, even amidst Instagram shutting my account down every other month, every 2 months, you know, I'm not giving up, and the support that I'm getting from the community is unbelievable. You know, people like
Is that
you and
one of the
sorry,
challenges you've had? They've been shutting down your account on Instagram.
Instagram is very, very active in terms of prohibiting and shutting me down. And I think at this point it's definitely a personal thing, you know, but it's interesting because there's accounts on Instagram that are doing the exact same thing. And in Canada, this is a legal business, but Instagram has a set of rules that's one set of rules for the whole world. It doesn't matter where you're at, what country you're in. It doesn't matter the rules in your country. They have their set of rules. And I've gotten caught up in their algorithm, and it's been very challenging for me to continue to market through Instagram. And my entire intention through Instagram was always just to educate and just to show studies and research and current events that are surrounding, you know, the legalization, the decriminalization, policies that are being set in place, things of this sort, you know. And that's all I ever, my intention, because like I said, my whole intention with this was never to sell as many bottles of microdoses or to make as much money. My intention was to educate and to show people that this works, and to, you know, highlight the benefits and let people see for themselves. And yeah, you know, with Instagram being as strict as they are, it's been tough, but in a way that's forcing me to see other routes and to go about other routes and to you know, do things like this. And this is what I enjoy doing more than anything anyways, is to talk about it, because I'm extremely passionate about it. And I want people to sense and feel that passion, and I want people to trust it and kind of put the fear aside. And even if it's, you know, I know it's hard to, you know, just trust some random guy, but if you don't trust me, you know, that's why I was posting all of these Johns Hopkins studies, these Harvard studies, because it's not, this is bigger than just individuals, you know, shouting from the sidewalks, yeah, psychedelics are great. This is a movement quite a bit bigger, that has quite a bit more structure to it and foundation, and there's still quite a bit of pushback from the government, and there will be. And like you said, it's sad that it comes from something that was 40, 50 years ago, but each presidency, when they make that law, it's like, yeah, they're in presidency for 8 years max, they leave, and then it takes 30 or 40 years before we can even get back to a law that they put in place to try to potentially change it, because we've just kind of forgotten about it, or buried it beneath all these other policies that have come up. And that's the problem that we see, is that we've got policies that are just outdated, and it's almost like the government's saying, yeah, we know, but we don't have time to go back and look at that. So it's going to take tons of effort from all of you to prove to us that we need to change this, you know, which is kind of what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's a mix of that, and I think, you know, people are just lazy in nature generally to,
Absolutely,
especially when it comes to evaluating their belief systems. And so I think that, you know, one of what the things I've discovered is that so many of the beliefs that we have around drugs as a society, they were birthed in this place of, fraudulent expectations or whatever, where, so many of the studies that people base their beliefs on have been found to be false. A really big one is the one on MDMA. So people always point to the fact that if you take MDMA, it's going to put holes in your brain. But
yeah,
because of that one study, but that study, nobody takes time to realize that study was incorrect. They actually did not use MDMA in that study. They accidentally used the wrong subset of chemicals in there. And that's what actually caused the holes. But nobody ever went back and said, hey,
no one talks about that.
Nobody, we messed this up. MDMA is actually beneficial when done properly, when taken properly. They base it on a study that was accidentally used methamphetamine instead of the wrong compound that was supposed to be used. Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about it a lot. If you follow Huberman's lab, and
I do.
Yeah, I love him, and that just was mind blowing to me. That wow, okay, that study's just false. It's not even correct. Let alone,
and then they're still blasting it and showing it as it's something to look at seriously, and that's a problem, and that's what's continually happening, I think.
That's the best advocacy we can do in some ways, is to actually get the right information in front of people, which is why I wanted to bring you on here, which is if you asked, whatever, 10 people, are mushrooms and psilocybin, are they addictive? Probably 80%, 90% is going to say yes, but they're not. And that's
no.
But most people would never believe that a drug could not be addictive, but it's not addictive. And that is a huge reason people are afraid. They're like, well, I don't want to be addicted to mushrooms. You can't get them addicted to mushrooms. It doesn't work on the brain. It's a totally different brain.
Exactly. 100%. And it's interesting because this is one of my main points of talk when I talk to people, when I'm kind of doing either a consult in the beginning, is, mushrooms, they don't touch your dopamine center at all. They don't even, it's pure, it's 100% serotonin. People don't realize dopamine is what you're addicted to. So when you're an addict, you're addicted to dopamine. Yeah, you have your substance. That substance is giving you your dopamine, but the dopamine is what you're actually craving. That's what you're going for. That's what you continually going back for. Mushrooms, they don't even look at your dopamine system. They're purely serotonin, which is another argument for how they're so effective in antidepressant effects, because they're literally doing exactly what an antidepressant SSRI does, but in a natural way. They're going to your serotonin, and they're creating new connections, and they're basically reigniting parts of your brain that have been sleeping for 10, 15 years. And the best example that I give is if all of the pathways in your brain that your neurotransmitters are crossing for 30 years, they're crossing the same pathway, the same way. And it's basically like if you were skiing on the same path, it's going to continue to go down, down, down. You're going to create ruts. And you're basically creating these ruts in your brain to where something happens, you're naturally going to go in that pathway because it's just what's there. It's what's been there for 30 years. So in order to change that, you've got to climb out of this basically valley that's been dug in to see clearly your options. And if you can't get to that spot where you can see all of your options, you're just going to see that one narrow pathway. Mm-hmm. And that narrow pathway can be looked at as the way that you've behaved for the last 30 years. Or what mushrooms do is they kind of go in and they're kind of like a snowplow in a sense, to where they level it all out. They even the ruts out. They allow you to get back to seeing all of the different pathways, all of your options. So you don't have to react this way every time this happens. You actually have a whole array of different pathways that you can take. But we're so used to taking the same pathway over and over because we've done it for so long, and we've trained ourselves that when when event A happens, I react like this. When event B happens, I react like this. When event C happens, I react like this. But really, when event A happens, you don't have to react like this. You could react as if event C happened, but we have to train our brain to be able to do this. And we've got to de-train our brain from all of the bad patterns that we've developed in these bad habits. And that's where the mushrooms come in to kind of act as that bridge to clear all of these old behavior patterns and allow us to see and almost create like a new highway in our brain, you know, a new neural super highway where we've got 50 different ways to feel happy now. We've got 50 different ways that we can get to this point, as opposed to just this one road that we've taken for the last 30 years, where it's like, now I might see 10 new ways to get there, you know, and they're all going to be different. And that's and they might not all work, but they're not going to be the same pathway, the same way that you've used, the same thing you've done for the last 30 years. And that's kind of where I go into using them as a tool, because maybe one of those pathways is art, one's music, one's yoga, one's running, one is going swimming. You have all these different things that you're seeing, and what the mushrooms do is they allow you to find other sources of joy and sources of creativity. And that's why I say it's not an answer, but it's a tool. And it's a tool to go deeper in yourself and to open other pathways and open other doors. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you that if you're addicted, if you're depressed, if you have trauma and pain, that you just take this capsule and you're going to be better, because that would be a lie. You know what I mean? We have to do the work. Yeah. Bottom line.
We have to do the work.
We always have to do the work. And
keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go.
No, that's the most important thing, is that we have these tools, but if we're not doing the other half of the work with the tool, it doesn't serve. There's no point at all. You know, but if we can meet in the middle and say, hey, I'm gonna take this mushroom and put it into my body, but not give all of the expectation to the mushroom to do the work. Like, I'm gonna meet you in the middle. Let's do this together. You know, and looking at it that way as like, okay, so now you've got this support system that's with you. So you kind of look at it like that. Okay, so what can I use this tool to do? So now, okay, I'm going to go maybe start a hobby. I'm going to go start doing yoga. I'm going to go to this fitness class that I've been saying I'm going to go to. Things like this, to where, and then 2 months later, you realize, oh, wow, I've been microdosing, but I've been working out every day. I've been meditating at sunset. I've reconnected with my mom that I haven't talked to in 5 years. So all these other things come together, and that's actually what gets people out of this dark place. It's not it's not the tool, it's them, but they've found a tool that works for them.
Amen.
And that's, that's what I've done, and that's what most people are looking for, is just the tool that works for them. And there is a tool that works for everyone. And it might not be the same. It might be something crazy. Like I said, this is, to a lot of people, the idea of using a microdose of a psychedelic as your tool would seem really far out and crazy. But to me, to think that people are drinking 4 Jack and Cokes as their tool seems crazy.
Yeah.
So it's, we all need tools. We all need some type of advice. We're human beings, we have pain. And like I said, I think to find the tool that works for you is the most crucial part of this whole thing. And what's happening right now is that it's becoming evident that psychedelics are really potent tools if they're used correctly.
Yeah, I think the name, it's almost like, when you say taking a psychedelic sounds crazy but that's not, I mean, yes, that is what you're doing, but you're not, it's almost like you're highlighting the word psychedelic, where it's in there, it's in the capsule, but it's not like I'm taking a psychedelic to trip and
no.
And I think that's what people get freaked out by. It's almost like if you could just hide it in the ingredients and just say, here's this super pill. People get hung up on that word.
And it's funny you say that, because that's kind of my joke, is that, like, you know what? It might be better for me not to tell people, but then of course there's that whole other moral, like, I could never do that. But it is, like you said, 9 out of 10 people you could give this to and tell them that it's a vitamin B supplement with their vitamins in the morning, and they would never even know.
Right.
They feel a shift. And that's what I try to emphasize, is that, yeah, it is a true microdose. You're not getting anything more than the cognitive benefits. You're not getting anything more than your neurotransmitters awakening, and a slight shift of perception. And a lot of it is hard for people to grasp the idea of that they're not going to be high. But I've designed this basically to where, you could, your doctor, lawyer, police officer, school teacher, like it's something that really is for everyone to be able to take. And I have yet to have anyone come to me and tell me, hey, that was, I felt like it was too strong, or, oh my God. If anything, people come to me and go, I don't even understand how it works. I feel so much better, but I never actually felt, I never feel the capsule working, but I feel so much better. Yeah. And it's this thing that people can't grasp, the concept of taking something and not feeling high or feeling something, because normally we're supposed to feel something when we take a medicine. And what's ironic is that people are not used to medicine working. Yeah. So when they take a medicine and it does what I explain that it'll do, and what they're thinking that it does, it's almost this whole, like, too good to be true. And in the beginning, I thought this was too good to be true. I was like, this is crazy. This is all it is. Like, why doesn't the whole world know about this? Why we could get rid of antidepressants in 2 years completely if we could just somehow get all of the victims of Western medicine, if you will. That's what I like to kind of call them, because most of them, that's what they are. They're victims. They didn't have any desire to be dependent on a substance their whole life. They thought, human beings go through depression. Human beings go through anxiety. We feel these things, but that's normal. That's a natural thing. What's not natural is to immediately get thrown a prescription of pills to numb all of those feelings because you felt sad for 2 days, as opposed to figuring out why you felt sad.
Justin, I want to respect your time, and I know you got another meeting in 2 minutes. So,
no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, how can people follow you, get in touch with you, ask you questions? How can they do all of that?
Yeah, so, I'm very available for questions, for talking. I'm super responsive. You can find me at my backup Instagram is just at Redwood Micro 2.0. And, this is the logo here.
Yeah.
Redwood Micro. So just look for the green circle. You can find me on Instagram. You can email me, redwoodmicro@gmail.com as well. I'm super responsive there. That's kind of the route that I'm trying to direct people to now.
I'll
just
put that
because
up.
of Instagram. Yeah, and my WhatsApp. People can contact me directly. I have no issues with people contacting me directly on my phone number, which I can give to you if you want.
Okay, yeah.
I can send it to you if you want to put it up, that's totally fine. But yeah, I'm super available. I'm always excited and willing to talk mushrooms with anyone, benefits, questions, ordering. The product is available in the United States. It's available in Mexico, and we've actually successfully shipped to over 15 countries internationally now. So we're, really, and there's, like I said, 10 or 12 medical doctors in Mexico that have been using it for 2 years with nothing but success. So it really goes to show that this is something that hopefully, in the coming years, I'll be able to transition into the US and get it into the hands of the medical community in the United States, and, really take it to the next level, because there's a lot of people that could benefit from this type of healing, myself included. And I want to share it, and I want as many people to have access to this that want it without the fear, from a trusted source, and to know that it's something that is there to help us. They're teachers for us.
Absolutely, man. I so appreciate you. I definitely want to have you back on, and I want to keep our conversation going. We see so many things similar, the whole way that, we heal, and the whole way that we recover. And we're just two very aligned people. So I want to keep this going, brother.
Absolutely. I really had a great time. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, like I said, anytime, just let me know. I'd love to come on and chat. I'm always around.